Listen, I'm about to save you from making the same expensive mistakes I did. 3 years ago, I was dropping serious cash on designer bottles, thinking that's what it took to smell expensive. Then something happened that completely changed my perspective on fragrances forever. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jesse, and I'm glad you clicked on this video. Today, we're talking about something the fragrance industry doesn't want you to know. These budget alternatives I'm about to show you perform better than bottles that cost 10 times more. I've been testing these for months, and some of these discoveries will blow your mind. But first, let me tell you about the moment everything clicked for me. Last September, during Nordstrom's anniversary sale, I was browsing the men's section wearing my Tom Ford for Men, a $200 investment I'd made after reading countless Fragrantica reviews. I felt confident about my scent choice until I passed the escalator. That's when I caught it, a warm, complex fragrance that seemed to project effortlessly. The guy wearing it looked completely ordinary. Jeans, basic tee, nothing flashy. "Excuse me," I said, feeling slightly embarrassed. "What cologne are you wearing?" "It's incredible." He smiled knowingly. "Armaf Club de Nuit Intense. Got it for $38. He pulled out a sleek black bottle. "It's inspired by Creed Aventus, but honestly, I think it performs better." That night, I started researching and discovered an entire world of clone fragrances, high-quality alternatives to designer scents that often outperformed their expensive inspirations. Let me introduce you to Armaf Club de Nuit Intense. This is supposedly inspired by Creed Aventus, but honestly, it's better in some ways. When I first sprayed this, I was skeptical. How could a $40 bottle compete with something that costs $300? Here's what happened. I wore this to work on a Monday, and by noon, my coworker Marcos asked what I was wearing. Then the receptionist mentioned something smelled amazing when I walked past. By the end of the week, I had 3 different people ask about my fragrance. The pineapple opening hits you immediately. Then it settles into this smoky, masculine base that lasts all day. The performance is ridiculous. We're talking 8 to 10 hours of solid projection. I've repurchased this bottle 4 times now. But here's what really sets this apart from other clones. The blackcurrant and bergamot in the opening create this tart-sweet combination that's absolutely addictive. About 30 minutes in, you get these beautiful birch and jasmine notes that add complexity most people miss. The dry down is where the magic happens though. Patchouli, musk, and this subtle vanilla that makes it incredibly wearable for any season. I've tested this in 100-degree heat and 20-degree cold, and it performs exactly the same. The projection is so good that people smell you before they see you, but it never becomes offensive or cloying. This is the fragrance that made me realize expensive doesn't always mean better. Now, let me tell you about my biggest fragrance regret. Back in 2023, I bought Maison Francis Kurkdjian Baccarat Rouge, $540 for $400. Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful, but I could barely afford it at the time. 2 months later, I discovered AL Haramain Amber Oud Rouge, $35. The similarity is scary. That sweet, airy, almost cotton candy vibe with depth underneath. The longevity is actually better on the clone. I felt like an idiot for months, but that mistake led me to discover an entire world of alternatives that most people don't know about. What makes this clone so incredible is how they captured that ethereal, almost medicinal opening that Baccarat Rouge is famous for. You get that same saffron and jasmine combination, but there's this amber base that adds warmth the original sometimes lacks. The cedar wood comes through beautifully in the dry down, creating this sophisticated cloud around you. I've done side-by-side comparisons, and honestly, most people prefer this version because it's less sharp and more approachable. The performance is nuclear. I'm talking about 12-hour longevity with projection that lasts the entire day. At work, people ask me about my fragrance, even when I'm wearing just one spray. This taught me that sometimes the student becomes the master. I used to think Oud fragrances were too intense, too exotic for everyday wear. Then I found Lattafa Asad. This is what Oud should smell like for beginners. It's got this beautiful rose and Oud combination that's not overwhelming at all. Last month, I wore this to a dinner date. My date kept leaning in closer during conversation. At the end of the night, she said I smelled incredible and asked what I was wearing. The confidence boost from a $30 bottle was unreal. The staying power is insane too. I put this on at 6 p.m. for dinner, and I could still smell it on my shirt the next morning. That's nuclear performance right there. Here's what makes Asad special. The rose isn't your grandmother's powdery rose water. This is deep, dark Bulgarian rose mixed with Cambodian oud that's been tamed perfectly. The opening gives you this rush of pink pepper and bergamot that prevents the oud from being too heavy. About an hour in, you start getting these gorgeous amber and musk notes that create this sophisticated masculinity. The saffron adds this subtle spiciness that makes it incredibly sexy without being obvious about it. I've tested this against oud fragrances that cost 5 times more, and this holds its own every single time. The projection is perfect, intimate but noticeable, like an expensive cologne should be. This is the fragrance that converted me to the oud family. Okay, this next one is perfect for summer, and it's criminally underrated. Armaf Ventana is inspired by Prada Luna Rosa Carbon, but it performs better than the original. This is fresh, clean, metallic, like you just stepped out of an expensive spa. I tested this during a heat wave last August. 90-degree weather, high humidity, and this fragrance didn't quit. While other people were wilting, I was getting compliments at the coffee shop, at the gym, even at the grocery store. The lavender and pepper combination creates this effect, where you smell expensive but approachable. It's office safe but interesting enough for weekend activities. For $42, this is highway robbery. What sets Ventana apart is this incredible ambergris base that most people miss on the first spray. The bergamot and lavender opening is crisp and clean, but there's this subtle metallic note that gives it a futuristic vibe. The pepper adds just enough spice to keep it from being boring, while the dry down reveals beautiful cedar and patchouli that ground the whole composition. This is what modern masculinity smells like. Confident but not aggressive. Fresh but not simple. The performance in heat is ridiculous because they formulated this specifically for hot climates. Even after 8 hours in direct sunlight, people were still noticing my fragrance. The projection cuts through humidity and sweat like nothing I've ever experienced. This is summer cologne perfection in a bottle. If you like sweet fragrances but don't want to smell like a teenager, listen up. Lattafa Khamrah changed everything for me in the gourmand category. This is inspired by some expensive niche fragrance, but honestly, I like this version better. It opens with this incredible cinnamon and apple combination, then dries down to vanilla and woods. But here's the thing. It's not cloying or too sweet. There's this sophistication to it that makes it wearable in professional settings. I wore this to a networking event 3 weeks ago. I'm not exaggerating when I say 5 different people asked about my fragrance. One guy even asked me to write it down for him. The projection is perfect. People notice without being overwhelmed. For those summer days, when you want something light but memorable, Haramain Blanche is absolute perfection. This gives you those fresh aquatic vibes without being boring or generic. The opening is this beautiful bergamot and pepper combination. Then it settles into this clean soapy base that just works. I wore this to a pool party last month, and even in the chlorine and sun, people were complimenting the scent. What I love about this one is the versatility. Beach day, office meeting, casual dinner, it works everywhere. And at $36, you can afford to be generous with your sprays. Now, we're getting into more sophisticated territory. Parfums Vintage Emperor Extrait is inspired by some ultra-expensive niche fragrance, but this clone actually performs better. This is what mature, confident masculinity smells like. The opening is this incredible blend of spices and citrus, but the dry down is where the magic happens. Deep woods, amber, and this subtle smokiness that makes people remember you. I wore this to a wedding last year, and the groom asked what I was wearing during the reception. The longevity is absolutely insane. We're talking 12 plus hours of solid performance. I've tested this against fragrances that cost 5 times more, and this holds its own every single time. Here's something special. Alexandria Fragrances Zion. This works in literally every situation I've tested it in. Office meetings, date nights, casual hangouts, even formal events. It's like having 5 different fragrances in one bottle. The scent profile is this perfect balance of fresh and warm, clean and complex. I can't pinpoint exactly what it reminds me of, but every time I wear it, someone asks about it. my barber, my dentist, random people at restaurants. This fragrance gets attention. For $50, this is probably the best value in my entire collection. If you could only buy one cologne fragrance, this might be it. When you want to make a statement after dark, Parfums de Marly Layton Cologne by Haramain Royale is your weapon. This is sweet, spicy, and absolutely magnetic. The apple and vanilla combination shouldn't work this well, but it does. I wore this to an engagement party, and I'm not kidding when I say 3 different strangers asked what I was wearing. The projection cuts through crowds, smoke, and all the chaos of nightlife. By the end of the night, I felt like a celebrity. The performance is ridiculous too. I put this on at 9 p.m. for a night out, and I could still smell it on my clothes the next afternoon. That's the kind of lasting power you want for special occasions. For everyday wear, Armaf Sillage is absolutely perfect. This is fresh enough for the office, but interesting enough that people notice. It's like the perfect handshake in fragrance form. Professional, but memorable. I've been wearing this to work for 2 months straight, and I still get compliments. My boss mentioned last week that I always smell great, which is exactly what you want in a professional setting. Not overwhelming, just consistently pleasant. The price point is insane too. $34 for something that performs like a $100 designer fragrance. This is what smart fragrance buying looks like. Here's what I've learned from months of testing these against their expensive inspirations. In blind smell tests, most people can't tell the difference. In performance tests, many of these clones actually last longer than the originals. The projection on most of these is better because they use higher concentrations of aromatic compounds. The designers are cutting costs, but the clone houses are trying to prove themselves, so they go harder with the formulations. If you're just starting with clones, here are my must-haves. First, Armaf Club de Nuit Intense for that versatile complement-getting everyday scent. Second, Lattafa Khamrah is for when you want something unique and memorable. Third, Alexandria Zion for maximum versatility. These 3 will cover 90% of your fragrance needs for under $150 total. Compare that to buying 3 designer fragrances and you're looking at potentially $1,000 or more. The math just makes sense, and the performance speaks for itself. Look, the fragrance industry has been overcharging us for decades. These clone houses have figured out the formulas and they're delivering the same experience for a fraction of the cost. The only difference is the marketing budget and the fancy packaging. I'm not saying never buy designer fragrances, but don't sleep on these alternatives. Some of them are better than the originals, and your wallet will definitely thank you. I want to hear from you in the comments. Which of these sounds most appealing for your style? Are you team fresh and clean, or do you prefer something sweet and complex? Let me know what you're looking for, and I'll point you in the right direction. If this video opened your eyes to the clone game, like it did for me, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more honest fragrance content without the designer bias. Ring that notification bell because I've got more budget gems coming your way. There's a whole world of incredible fragrances out there that won't break your bank account. You just need to know where to look. And that's exactly what this channel is about. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, smell and feel good. Stay fragrant